Hi there, I'm Angela. Welcome to Just Me and My Fabric. Today I'm going to share with you how I organize my sewing patterns. If that sounds interesting, stick around. Just a word of warning, so to speak. This might end up being a pretty long video and full of all kinds of details, so just bear with me if you're interested. If you've been looking for a way to keep your sewing patterns organized and you're anything like me, then you've searched and searched online and seen like dozens of YouTube videos and just plain blog articles on how sewists keep their patterns organized. And it seems like there are as many ways to do it as there are sewists. So what I'm going to show you is just the way that I do it and what I found that's worked for me. With that in mind, there are, like I said, many ways you can organize your patterns. And this wasn't always the way that I kept mine, but I have found it to be very useful. I've organized them this way for maybe about the past 2-ish years. And it's definitely an electronic system for cataloging. And then I have a cabinet where I store the physical pattern. So that kind of leads me into my first key takeaway. The system that I use, or maybe that any of us use, has two parts to it. One is how you catalog them, how you know what you have, an easy way to look through and see what you have. And that could be either an electronic system, some sort of a database, or even an Excel sheet. And then the second part of that is where you actually store them. So the goal is that you can look through your catalog, whether it's on paper, in a notebook, or an electronic system, and then know what you have and then be able to easily lay your hands on whatever pattern you're looking for. So I will show you both parts of my system. So let's go ahead and take a look at the electronic system that I use to catalog them. It's Evernote, and I'm sure probably most of you guys have heard of Evernote. It's just it's a database with a user interface, and you can use it for storing all kinds of information, screenshots from websites, from places maybe you saw like a piece of fabric that you wanted to buy. You can clip that page and save it into your Evernote. You can keep lists in there, pictures, pretty much anything. So it's like, think of it like a big storage database. And I know that there are other systems that people use. I know a lot of sewists use Trello. I am not familiar with Trello, and I already had an Evernote account, so I just chose Evernote, but it's definitely not the one and only. So I brought you over here to my computer so we could go ahead and take a look at the Evernote system. And you do need to, if you want to use Evernote, you do need to set up an account with them. And they have different levels as far as, I think they even have like a free version, and then there are some that you pay monthly. I forget all the different levels, but you can go to their Evernote's website and get all that kind of information. I have always used the free account before I decided to make it into my pattern catalog, and I didn't keep very much in there. If I found maybe like a recipe online or an article I wanted to read, then I would go ahead and book those into my Evernote, or clip them, I think is what it's called, into my Evernote. And when I decided that I wanted to start using Evernote to catalog and store all my patterns, I did go ahead and sign up for, I think it's the lowest level of paid Evernote, and it's $3.99 a month. But you might take a look and see how much storage you can get with the free one. I was kind of turned on to Evernote by another sewing YouTuber, and that was the system that she used and kind of talked about, so that's what led me to use Evernote for my pattern catalog. I would definitely suggest that you take a look at their website and look at like their storage and all the different levels that they have. And one thing, if I remember her, that other sewing YouTuber, talk about was that the limits, that like the size or the gigabytes or whatever that Evernote allows, some of that only has to do with the amount that you're uploading, like all at once. Like you can only upload a certain number of megabytes or gigabytes at a time or within a month. But once it's stored in there, the size is not as important. I don't know if that's making sense. So it's possible that once, like, I've done my massive upload using my paid level, that I might be able to back that down to the free level and still have access to everything that I have stored in there. But before I cut off my subscription, I would definitely want to make sure that that's the case so that I don't lose anything. So, like I said before, Evernote is just one option. A lot of people, I think, use Trello, so that could be something that you look into as well. Or you could just use a spreadsheet. I use Excel spreadsheets for like almost everything, my finances, everything. And if I didn't really want to have the pictures in there and just have a list of the patterns that I have, I probably would just keep them in a spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Evernote system now. Looks like, and I'll kind of give you a little lay of the land and then get into more sewing patterns related details. So everything is kind of organized or arranged or controlled here in this left hand bar. And keep in mind, I am not an expert on Evernote. I use it as a database. I haven't used it like enough to get in there and find all the tips and tricks and the helpful things and whether you can lay it out in different ways. I kind of got it to where it does what I need it to do, and then that's all. Like, I don't really want to spend any more time with it, learning all the details and ins and outs about it, at least not yet. It's still kind of something new-ish that I'm trying and still kind of getting a feel for, and it's working for me. So kind of just got what I need from it, and I don't dig into it any further. It might have a lot more capabilities than I even am aware of. So everything that you save in Evernote is considered a note. And if you want to create a new note, like to enter a new pattern, you would click this green new bar or plus sign, and it would allow you to choose create a note or create a task. I haven't used the task function at all, so I would just click the green note, and then you enter the title of the pattern, and then you can enter any notes about it, like what size do you have, any pictures, and I'll give you more details. I'll show you a few of my patterns to show you how that looks. And since everything is considered a note, they are stored the way that their organization structure is inside of Evernote. They're called notebooks. So what I have done, you can see I have notebooks for a lot of things other than sewing patterns, like articles to read. If I see any clothing online I want to buy, I'll clip it and save it into a notebook called clothing to buy. Right now, we're looking to get a new coffee table, so I've been searching online for those and clipping those screenshots into coffee tables and so forth. Gardening, home inspiration, recipes. You can use it for anything, but by and large, my sewing patterns are like the heart and soul of what I have in here. So I've created notebooks for all types of garments and accessories. So I actually have a notebook called Accessories. I have one called Athletic and Swimwear, Business, Combinations, like patterns that have like shirts and pants and a skirt, dresses, jumpsuits, and so forth. Kind of like what you would see in a pattern catalog, either a paper pattern catalog or an online, like any kind of pattern company that have their online catalog. That's kind of how I've created my notebooks. And then within there are the individual patterns. So for instance, if I click on the dresses notebook, I have all my dress patterns in here. Pattern name, like brand of pattern, and then pattern number. And then I've kind of gotten into the habit of putting the copyright date, just that's my own curiosity. It's certainly not like a crucial piece of information. And then I also put what size I have. Now for my older patterns, I actually had to take a picture of the front and the back of the envelope with my phone and upload it to Evernote. So that did take quite a while, but I find that it's so worth it. So like for instance, this McCall's 4297, if I'm shopping and I want to make this dress and I'm out getting fabric, I didn't bring the pattern with me, I can just look into my Evernote on my phone and look at the pattern envelope to see how much fabric I need and any other notions. And so I've stored that in the dresses notebook. Now, one other thing that you could do in here is to add tags. So down at the bottom here, I've added tags: dress, dressy, knit. That enables you to search. Like, say I want to search for all my knit dress patterns. Like, I'm in the mood to sew a knit dress. I can type in those keywords or tag words, and Evernote will bring up all the patterns that have knit and dress tagged on them. One thing that Evernote has changed, though, and added since I started using it is that when you search on a keyword, if there's an image that has text in it, like all this text on the back of this pattern envelope, it will search on that now, even though it's in a picture. So that's really, really nice, and it kind of makes it less important that I add the tags because it'll search all this text on the back of the envelope. Then one other thing, let me show you how the search function works. It's over here on the left. So if I want to search on 3199, which I know is a pattern I've completed recently, and I want to show you guys how I note in here that I have made this pattern and any notes about it. So I searched on that, but because it's not a dress, we were already in the dress notebook, it's not going to show up. So if I remove the dress category, it'll show up. It's actually a top. It's that turtleneck that I just made. So we have here Butterick 3199, copyright '01. And then if I know when I've purchased a pattern, I'll put that year down there too, just because I'm kind of like a data junkie. This is certainly not necessary. And then I put that I purchased it on eBay, the size range that I purchased. And I did make a note that I cut the pattern pieces apart, but not the individual sizes, because I did trace the size that I needed onto the medical exam table paper. So all the sizes are intact, but it's not like a factory folded pattern anymore, if that made sense. So I put the date that I made it and any notes that I took while I was making the pattern. And then down here, of course, is just the pictures that I scanned in, the front of the envelope and the back. And one thing that is helpful is, because I had to take the pictures with my phone and upload them into Evernote, because this is an old pattern and it's not available. If you were adding, like say you bought a pattern that's currently in print, you could theoretically copy and paste that screenshot of that pattern right into Evernote and not have to worry about taking a picture of the physical pattern with your phone. So it's a little bit of a time saver there and a shortcut. So what I love about this system is that it's searchable and it's browsable. Like if I want to make a pair of pants using a pattern I already have, I can just look in my pants notebook, and there I have all my patterns that have pants. And as far as digital patterns or PDF patterns, you could even put those in here too. Or if you already have those stored on your computer, like on your hard drive, you might already have those in an organized system. So maybe it wouldn't be as critical to put them in here, although it still would be helpful to have them if you're using this as your catalog and you want to browse all your patterns. And that's how I use Evernote to catalog my patterns. It was a lot of upfront work because I had all those older patterns to kind of get it into the database. But to me, it was worth it because now I have like a whole catalog of all my patterns at my fingertips, whether I'm at home or whether I'm out. It's been really worth it. And if you spread that workload out over days, you'll slowly get them up into your system, and you'll have that database right at your fingertips. If you have any questions specifically, let me know and I'll do my best to help you out. And like I said, it might be worth it if you're interested in using Evernote to go take a look at their website and kind of see what levels that they have available. If you could maybe get by with just the free, no cost version, that might be worth it. I used that one for a while, like I mentioned, and I'm still thinking about if I bumped down now that I don't have like hundreds of patterns to upload. I just need to use it as a database that I search in every now and then. maybe I could get by with the free version. I'm not sure. So don't take that with a grain of salt. Don't take that as like gospel truth, and definitely do your research if you're thinking about getting Evernote. So I hope that was helpful. So now that we've seen how I actually catalog my patterns, let's take a look at how I store them. I was actually fortunate enough to kind of inherit this pattern cabinet back here. It actually came with the house when we bought it. The man who sold us the house and who built this house and lived here first was an antiques collector. So he had found this pattern cabinet somewhere, and I guess he just didn't want to take it with him or had no interest in trying to sell it. And when I somehow came up in conversation when I mentioned that I sewed, he asked me if I wanted to just have it. I'm like, heck yeah, I do. You do not need to have some kind of fancy cabinet like this or any cabinet at all. Before I had this cabinet, what I stored my patterns in were those cardboard boxes that are meant for comic books because the size is kind of close, and those are so affordable, and you can find those. I'm sure you can find them like online or at Amazon. I think I got mine at an actual comic book store because I did used to read a lot of comic books. So I just got a few of those the long ones. They're about 3 feet long, I guess, and you can store a lot of patterns in there. And that was my system before I had this cabinet. And within those boxes, I still did try to keep them in some sort of order. I forget like exactly how I did it, whether it was by pattern company or just numerical order. But you could use any other kind of storage container, whether it's a piece of furniture or plastic totes, bins. The key thing is that you have your patterns cataloged in some way, and that the physical patterns are stored in an organized way so that when you choose one from your catalog, you can easily find it in the physical storage. So I hope that made sense. So don't feel like you need to have some fancy dancy cabinet to make this system work. So back to the pattern cabinet, the way that I have mine organized, because there are like plenty of drawers in here, I have each drawer is dedicated to a particular brand of patterns. So for instance, this top drawer here is Butterick. So I have all my Butterick patterns in here, and then within that, they are stored in numerical order. And because like this only, there's the way this cabinet is subdivided, there's three like sections divided by these little internal walls. Like here I have a few little patterns that I have self-drafted, so I don't have those in a system yet because that's kind of something new that I've been trying. And if I decide to stick with that, then what I would probably do is to put each one of these patterns in a manila folder and then still keep it in here. And then this next drawer has simplicity, and I can easily tell that because I see the S on the front of that pattern envelope there. So simplicity is packed. And then going down, we have 2 slots of McCall's, and in this little side section here, I have New Look, and then there's a few Quick Sew, and then a few Style. I don't know if you guys remember that pattern brand. I don't think that they still produce new patterns. Sorry if that's a little loud. And then my last one has Vogue. It's pretty much all Vogue. And Vogue is notorious for having these big giant envelopes, so they do not fit like sideways filed in, so I had to kind of do a little different thing there. Again, don't think that you have to have like a dedicated pre-made pattern cabinet. You could use any kind of a storage container. And one thing that just occurred to me is that might work really well is to take an old dresser or a new dresser or chest of drawers that's kind of an upright unit, and buy some of those inserts that you can buy for dresser drawers that kind of section them off. And like, so if you wanted to put your socks in one part of the drawer and your undies in another part, you can buy those long dividers. You could just use a chest of drawers with those dividers to make yourself a pattern cabinet, have like any style of furniture that you wanted to be your pattern cabinet, or any kind of a tote or bin. Yeah, so don't feel like you have to have this to make this system work. Also, I hope that you don't think I'm such a pattern hoarder. Keep in mind, I've been sewing for almost 30 years. That's a lot of time to build up pattern stash. I've gotten most of those when they were $1.99 or 99 cents, but even given that, I do realize that I have more patterns than I need or that I will maybe likely ever sew. So, like I'm doing with my fabric, I'm probably going to be doing a pattern purge here soon and finding like the best, most responsible way to offload those patterns. So, there you have it. That's how I catalog and store my patterns. I hope that was helpful or at least interesting for you. And a couple of things to note. It might seem like, oh, that is a lot of work to get all those patterns into that database. And I won't lie, it was a lot of upfront work. And I didn't do it just in one sitting. I kind of worked on it over a period of days, uploading the different patterns, like a grouping of patterns each day. So maybe over the period of a week, I got everything into the system. And despite the upfront workload of getting them all into Evernote, I found it to be so worth it. It's so worth it just to be out and about anywhere and have access to your whole pattern stash. And the way that I did it with the front and the back of the pattern envelope, you can easily see like how much fabric you would need for a particular pattern. If you happen to be out shopping for fabric, it's right there at your fingertips, as long as you have like a Wi-Fi or internet access, of course. So yeah, a lot of work up front, but definitely worth it. And I'm curious to know how you guys catalog and store your patterns. Let me know in the comments. And again, I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, like any other details that I didn't cover in the video, just shoot them down in the comments and I'll be happy to get back to you. And that's all that I have today. I hope you're having a great week. And thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, bye.